Hi, everybody. Welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm Tommy, and I'm once again joined by my lovely co-host Angel.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, good. She's coming from an undisclosed location, very secretive.
Yeah, the undisclosed location from One Life to Live.
um, so today we are wrapping up Port Charles' Time in a Bottle. We're covering weeks 12 and 13. It's been a long journey, but we're finally here. So
Hmm.
I'll roll the credits and we'll get right into it. Okay, so Allison and Jamal come upon Livy in the woods because where we last left off, Livy and Jack were in the woods trying to start a campfire, and Jack went to go find wood, but he was gone for like 5 seconds. So Livy's like, Jack, where are you? Where are you?
Yeah, this is not funny.
And we don't see who it is, but Livy's being watched by somebody. So says the
Hmm.
camera.
Yep.
um, so Jamal, Allison, and Livy all go looking for Jack. And Livy cuts her arm on a tree or a branch that's sticking out.
Hmm.
Um, they find him passed out, but they're able to get him to regain consciousness. He says that he tripped over a log, and that's how he hit his head and passed out.
Mm.
Um, they go back to the campsite to make the fire, I think is what happened. Or I don't know if they were going home.
I don't know. Sure.
He
Hmm.
finds Michael in the monastery, and she sees that he's a priest. Because, like we said, he had the white
Awkward.
collar.
Yeah.
She basically hits on him by saying he's so hot. He probably has to fight off the ladies. And
Yeah.
he says that's never been a problem. He plans to rebuild the monastery back to its glory days. So it's like a personal project for him.
Hmm.
Kevin and Lucy are banging on Ian's door looking for Frank. Ian acts like he doesn't know anything, but Lucy finds the 2 letters that Frank wrote, one to Neil and I think one to his parents or his mom.
Yeah, I know the one from Neil. I just forgot what the other one was. The other letter was, I think, was for his mom.
Yeah,
I don't
because
think
they
his
actually
dad
show.
is alive.
What was that?
I don't think their dad is alive
Yeah,
at the time
I
of
don't
this.
think so
Yeah.
either. Which they don't even show him in 1973, right?
No, they don't.
Was he ever a character, or he's just always been gone?
He's never been a character on Port Charles, from what I understand.
Okay. In 1973, Cookie's father has tied Frank up in the basement and called the police.
Hmm.
Cookie cuts him free, and he has to run and doesn't get a chance to break Nellie, the computer. uh, he, he runs to the football field bleachers and lays there in pain, thinking of Karen and how this is where he asked her to go steady 28 years later.
Oh.
He says he's starting to forget what she looks like. I'm like, it hasn't been that long. How do you forget what she looks like?
Yeah, exactly.
Lucy barges her way into the bedroom and finds Frank in his time travel. I put stasis.
Hmm.
She figures out that he has traveled to 1973 at this point because Lucy's all about past lives and time travel, and she knows about Eve and Ian,
Hmm.
basically making love through time. Um, so at this point, you brought this to my attention. I didn't even realize it with the dates, but apparently there was an episode missing.
Yeah, there's an episode missing. If I was on my computer, I would just like pull it up and be like, okay, this is the episode that that soap opera Central. I'm sorry, I'm thinking the name of it. Soap opera Central had. I forgot which episode now that I think about it. 'Cause as you know, I'm in a disclosed location, so I don't have the computer with me. So.
Okay. Well, I didn't notice any kind of like break in the story. So when you said that, I thought because it was the end of May, I thought maybe Memorial Day preempted an episode, so
That's
I
what I'm
didn't even
thinking
think that there was
too.
one missing.
Hmm.
So, um, like I
It could
said,
have just been the
which
playlist I was doing too. I was on too, so.
yeah. So Eve tells Michael that she's pregnant and that the man that she loves doesn't know she's carrying his child. Ian explains to Kevin how what he and Eve did was different because they relived past lives and memories, but Frank has just traveled in time. Kevin is furious that he could encourage Frank to do such a thing, not knowing the consequences of it all. Cookie finds Frank weak outside of Kelly's, and he tries to comfort her about what happened to Caroline. He tells her she has to learn to just let life happen and not close herself off. And she wonders how and why he's telling her all these things. And he says he's from the future, 2001.
Mm.
Whenever this topic comes up, nobody seems as shocked as they should be. They just kind
Yeah,
of
you
just
would
like,
think
what?
they'll
And
be
then,
like,
okay, and they
"Oh
just
my
accept it.
God," they'll be like, "Okay, what happens to me? Like that was what happens to me?" Like, I feel like there should have been more of a reaction than, "Oh, you're from 2001. Okay, what's that? 27 years in the future? Okay."
Yeah. Eve mentions Ian is unavailable, and Michael says married.
Mm.
She says he has other responsibilities he must tend to, and she tells him her friend has offered to marry her and give her a home and family, and says he's a really good friend. But that's why she's there, because she's
Mhm.
debating whether she wants to take Chris up on that offer.
Yeah.
Um, Michael thinks that's quite a sacrifice. He
Mhm.
says he doesn't see how she could take a vow of marriage to someone she likes when she knows that there's someone out there that she loves.
Mhm.
Lucy can feel a strong energy coming from Frank's body. She's very like, I feel there's something happening, something emotional.
Energy. Emotional.
Frank begs Cookie to believe him. He lists her interests, favorite school subjects, and who she has a crush on. And he says it's all in her hands now, and she's the only person that can help him. She wants to know about her future, but he says he can't risk messing things up more than he already has, and says he promises if she helps him to get to the computer, she won't be alone and she'll be loved. Michael drives Eve back to the cabin,
Mhm.
and she sees a person inside and thinks it's Ian, but when she goes inside, it's Chris. Cookie
He's like,
agrees
"Hey,
to
what's
help.
up?"
She's like Ian. He's like, no. I actually
No,
really
it's
felt
me,
bad for
Chris.
Chris.
Me too.
He looked like he was like devastated, but we'll get to that.
Mhm.
So Cookie agrees to help Frank, even though she doesn't understand. He says that what she's doing is saving lives. She thinks that they'll never see each other again, and he says they will someday. He asks her to trust him, and she says she does. And he says to remember him, and says she will in present day. Oh, sorry, my notes got jumbled. She says she will. In present day, Frank's vitals seem to be declining, and Kevin thinks they need to wake him up before it's too late. Eve is surprised to see Chris and thinks that she was expecting somebody else, which she was. Lucy tries to convince Kevin Frank knew the risks of going through with the time travel, and Kevin thinks if they don't do something, they could lose him. And Ian starts to agree and says, let's bring him back. Now, I don't know what they were going to inject him with. I don't know if they said it. I don't know if it was like epinephrine or like something to like speed up his heart rate or something.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was, but I'm not 100% sure either.
Frank makes his way back to Cookie's basement, to Nellie. They don't refer to it as Nellie anymore. They stopped naming it. They just say the computer.
Well, so Karen mentions it at the end. I mean, we'll get to it, but like Karen does mention the computer's name. Yeah.
I put Chris wonders if Eve has the ingredients for a martini. Now, he didn't word it like that, but he listed like what would be in a martini. I think he said, do you have olives, vermouth, and vodka or something? And she was like, drinking and pregnancy don't really go together. And he says, good thing he's not pregnant. He says he bets that she has Irish whiskey in case Thornhart shows up. Eve tells Chris about Michael being a priest, and she says that they were talking about him and how wonderful his proposal was. And Chris wonders if that helped Eve make up her mind and accept his proposal. Kevin and Ian are about to administer a drug to wake Frank up, but Ariana calls out for Ian to help her. I'm like, this bitch, she's still around.
Oh man, she's contractually obligated to appear this episode. Okay, here we go.
So I noticed probably the last 3 or 4 weeks, she really hasn't been on screen much. She'll have like a scene here or there. And I wonder if like fans were writing into the soap mags and like bashing her like we do.
Yeah.
And so they were like, she's not really.
I remember like even like soap opera journalists were saying like, okay, this character's not working.
Really?
I remember reading it in I forgot which one. It might have been Weekly at the time. But I think it was Digest too, because I was reading both of them at the time.
It's pretty much just like, we got to wrap this up. It's her story, but she's barely in it. She hung on to the bitter end. I really didn't think she was going to be through this whole arc.
She was in 2 arcs, exactly 2 arcs.
Right. I was like, I know you have to go very soon. And then when I got into the final week, I'm like, she's still here. I'm like, die already, just die. Excuse me. Where am I? Oh. Ian says he has to bring Ariana to the hospital and asks Lucy and Kevin to keep an eye on Frank. Eve tells Chris she's not ready to be married and that they are meant to be good friends. He thinks it's because she's holding out hope for Ian. And she kind of in a roundabout way admits that that's true, but she doesn't want to ruin his life by keeping him in a loveless marriage. She even mentions Julie. Were him and Julie like a serious thing?
They were. In fact, he was the father of Christina.
Oh.
Yeah. That's why, or I think he's the father of Christina. I know that Christina's named for Chris. So, yeah. But I think either he's the father or it's just the name is just like Christina for Chris.
Oh. Huh. I like that. I like finding out little connections like that. Where am I? Oh, Frank is struggling trying to find a way to kill Nellie. He finally thinks he's figured it out, and Kevin is done waiting and is going to inject the drug to wake him up. Lucy wants to wait even just 5 more minutes, and Kevin says, and his inner voice is telling him the time is now.
Mhm.
At the hospital, Ian is trying to have Ariana hold out hope that she's going to get the transplant. He says they're going to stabilize her, and she says that he has to let her go. I'm like, let her go. She's telling him, let her go. She's done. I'm done. She's done. We're all done.
Yeah. She even like mentions like, oh, I'm dying. I'm gonna die. Like, please let me die. Please die. You know, she's even saying, let me die. So like, let her die.
Right. And wasn't that the whole point of him taking her to the back to the apartment so she could die,
Exactly.
not like attached to like machines and everything? Okay. Eve admits that she has fantasized about what it would be like to be with Ian and telling him about their baby. She says she just needs time to weigh out her life options. And Chris wishes her luck and leaves the cabin. But outside, Chris looks really disappointed, and he pulls out the engagement ring and he looks at it and he looks sad. He looks like he wants to cry, and I felt bad for him.
Oh, Chris.
I never thought I would say that about Chris.
Yeah, me neither.
The medicine isn't working on Frank, and his blood pressure is severely low. Lucy talks to Frank, begging him to come back. And Cookie's father in 1973 comes in drunk, as usual, and he hears Frank in the basement. Frank is struggling to pull Nellie apart and fails. Oh, he falls to the ground, and he ends up in a white lighted place. And I'm like, is this supposed to be heaven? Is this purgatory? Like, I don't really know where he's supposed to be at this point.
Yeah, he's supposed to be somewhere. Not hell.
But he's slowly slipping away. Like, he doesn't have strength. He just keeps apologizing to Karen, wherever she is, that he couldn't save her.
I wonder if he's in the time in a bottle that this arc refers to.
Maybe he's in the bottle. Maybe he's at the bottom of Cookie's father's bottle that he's drinking. Livy runs to the recovery room to get Jack a burger. The bar, not the hospital.
Bar, not the hospital.
Oh, I skipped ahead a little bit. So Jack wants sex, but Livy wants to feed him because he's still recovering from his head injury from falling. He says he wants a burger, and she says that's not really good for you, and he kind of snaps at her.
He's like, but I want a burger.
Yeah, I was a little confused by Jack's behavior these last couple of weeks. So we mentioned Livy was being watched in the woods. And I thought maybe it would be a hint for Tainted Love, but then I also thought maybe it was Zach and his like crew just like stalking them. But we never really got a resolution to that. And Jack's been acting weird. So now I'm wondering, I don't really remember. Could Caleb have done something? Like our future character we're gonna meet?
That's what I'm thinking too. That's what I'm thinking too. I'm thinking it's Caleb.
I'm like, he obviously didn't bite him because they didn't mention any kind of marks on his neck or anything. So maybe he's just like compelling him or hypnotizing him somehow.
Yeah, because like remember Caleb, if you for those of you who remember Tainted Love, remember Caleb hypnotizes you before he bites you, I believe. So.
Oh, I don't remember that.
That's probably what's happening with Jack. Yeah.
Okay. Because at one point, I think, they mention this when Livy's trying to like nurse him back to health, that he's very hot, like his body is running really warm. And I'm like, all of this feels like a tainted love thing. I'm like, but he was not bitten. Like, what is happening? Allison and Jamal are paid a visit by Zach and Sam. Zach has brought a racing magazine that he says Jamal will be on the cover of next month after the next race. Allison reads the magazine while Jamal and Zach discuss the race and how Jamal will be done with him after this last time. And Zach and Sam leave, and outside they say Jamal will be smuggling. I put drugs. Maybe I didn't hear it right because later on it becomes diamonds across the border. But he won't know about it. They were just gonna like put it on the bike somehow.
Yeah.
Allison reads a scary statistic about injuries and deaths caused by racing, and doesn't want Jamal to race. He says he has to one last time, and she thinks he's hooked on racing again and wants to, not because he has to. She runs to their apartment and starts packing her things like she's about to leave him. And
it's like, bye.
And he manages to convince her everything will be all right and that they can get back to their lives after the race. Jack and Livy make love, and this is when Livy says that he feels extra warm. Frank gets weaker and weaker in the White Room and is defeated that he could not find or save Karen, and he begins to, what I thought, die. He hears Karen's voice and is transported back to General Hospital, where Karen is in front of him, and she's just finished prepping for her surgery, her transplant surgery, to help Ariana. Now, I felt like this happened way too quick. Even though it took us a minute to like a time to get here, I just felt I almost thought it was a dream. I didn't want to fall for it. It was like one of those things where I'm like,
yeah,
nope,
I don't fall for it either.
And then it just kept going on, and I'm like, is it real? Or is he just, hallucinating Karen? Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it ended very abruptly.
Yeah.
Because now now he's back.
I feel like there should have been something more.
It would
like something like I feel like Nellie should have been talking to Frank in the White Room.
Something. Because now the whole scenes of Kevin and Lucy trying to wake him up don't matter because he's back and he's conscious, and so they're off doing God knows what. And I don't understand what all of this was for. Like, why was Nellie supernatural? Like, what? Like, why was he? Whatever their gender was, he, she, they. Why was it insistent that Frank talked to Cookie if him talking to her was just gonna mess everything up? And
I guess we're in an alternate timeline where Karen is here, and then the timeline where Lucy and Kevin wake Frank up is another timeline. So now we're getting into timelines, and it's confusing and stuff like that.
This is definitely a butterfly effect storyline.
Yeah, it is.
So I guess everybody who thought they didn't know anybody named Karen Wexler just now has the memory that they know Karen Wexler.
Yeah, because the next time we see Lucy, she's with Serena, so.
Yeah. Eve has decided to stay in the cabin and offer help to Michael in restoring the monastery. I put Joseph encourages Ian to go find Eve. and he'll stay and monitor Ariana's condition. So the surgery's happened. This is how much they just didn't care anymore about her. They're like, oh, the surgery happened. She's fine. Karen's recovering. Let's wrap this up. Karen wants to try and recover from surgery without any pain medication. She asks Frank to distract her and make her laugh. And I'm like, I don't think laughter is really the best medicine, because if you're not on pain medication and you go to laugh, it's going to hurt.
It's going to hurt more.
He ends up telling her a fairy tale, which is basically everything that he went through with Nellie, and to get her back. So now, this is another issue I feel like I have with this story. It's almost as if Karen doesn't know about Nellie. Like, the whole part of them finding the computer at the antique auction or whatever never happened. Like, I feel like she just doesn't, like, piece it together at first.
Yeah.
Garcia stops by the bike shop for some coffee. And Jack beats him by joking about them running a drug ring behind the shop. Allison stops Jack and says Livy is right. He is so wired right now. Allison says, give it to me, baby. Like, she's like joking around with him. And he ends up kissing her. So this is like one of the things that, like, I'm saying, I just feel like, why is he acting like this? Like, clearly something happened in the woods.
Yep.
Jamal walks in and punches Jack, and Jack says it was a joke that went too far. And Garcia and his other co-worker ask anybody if they want to press charges, and we all say no.
His partner.
Yeah. He's somebody. I feel like I've seen him on other soaps in like a minor role, or General Hospital or something. He looks really familiar.
The partner or Garcia?
The partner. Garcia, I know I've seen. He's been on Days. But the partner looked like somebody that I've seen on General Hospital before. Ariana is recovering from the transplant and encourages Ian to go find Eve and gives him a Polaroid picture of them to remember what he did to save her. I'm like, he's not going to forget. Don't worry. He doesn't need a picture of you. So I don't know if I just didn't care and wasn't paying attention, or I was taking notes and I looked down. But Ariana had something set up with a nurse. I feel like it was her last scene. Did they say what was happening with her, where she was going?
So I think it was Gabriella. Says that she's remember what? Okay, so remember back in the beginning of the arc, towards the beginning of the arc, when Ian had Victor set up something to set up her to go to witness protection.
Yeah,
that's where she's going.
Oh, okay, so she's still gonna.
I followed up with that, because even though Ben's not and then I was like, wait a minute, why would they? I have to actually like psych myself into like why would she still need witness protection? Even though Ben is dead, her family's still out together. So that's the reason I came up with.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, because remember Karen called Ariana's father, and he hung up on her and everything like that. So if we're still on that timeline where Karen is exists, if we're in that timeline where Karen exists, then she would still be a threat to the family because of the honor killing and everything like that. So that's why Victor is going to whisk her away and everything like that. So, okay, bye, Ariana.
Bye, girl. Good luck. Don't come back.
Bye. Don't come back. So long. Don't come back.
You're lucky you survived. Michael insists he wants to restore the monastery by himself. And he says as a gift to God and to prove to himself that he could do it. Eve asks if she could stay a couple of days while she figures out where she wants to go in life and in just to start a new life.
Mm-hmm.
He says a couple of days should be okay. Allison tells Livy she thinks it's the race that has everyone on edge and doing weird things to explain Jack's behavior. It was. I always laugh and kind of roll my eyes at Livy because I feel like she comes off a little bit needy sometimes with Jack.
Yeah.
Like when he snapped at her, she's just like, "Oh my god, you don't love me anymore." Like she didn't say that in that moment, but that's just like an example of how she acts. So him
Mm-hmm.
kissing Allison, she's just like, "After everything we went through, you don't want to be with me." Like I'm just like, calm down. Everything does not mean the end of this. Like just go. I don't know if it has to do with maybe her abandonment issues with like her family and everything.
Yeah.
Jamal wants to cut Jack out of helping out with the race. He says he has too many other things to worry about without having to look over his shoulder worrying about what Jack's going to do next.
Mm-hmm.
Michael is alone in the monastery and he prays to protect Eve and her baby from evil and to keep her safe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's around this episode that I feel like the word evil and safety and are being thrown around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I guess I must have skipped ahead because Gabby says to Ariana her numbers are great and there isn't a doctor on staff that has seen a transplant go so well. And I was like, Maxie Jones would like to contradict that.
Yeah, girl, Max, come on.
No doctor at General Hospital has ever seen a transplant go well. I'm like, that's false.
Maxie Jones is the queen of transplants going well.
I don't know what other floor General Hospital is on, but go to that floor and talk to those doctors.
What floor is General Hospital on? I'm forgetting.
Are they set in like one floor on the show, or do they switch it around a lot?
I know that poor Charles is supposed to the 6th floor in the ER, but PH, I'm trying to remember because I was just looking at a clip of Christine Jones taking over for Tracy Quartermain while Jane Elliott was on maternity leave, and it had a number on there, and I forgot what the number was.
Yeah, I don't remember the numbers, but I do remember watching like the 90s and early 2000s that there was always a number on the elevator.
Yeah, and I was just watching the Lucas Laura return from '93, and it had the number on it, but I forgot what the number was.
Serena doesn't seem interested in learning about wilderness survival, and Victor tries to intrigue her by telling her he's heard of a lot of strange things happening in those woods. So this is another thing. Like all of a sudden, everybody's like, "Ooh, those woods are weird. Like strange things happen." Like everybody's kind of doubling down on that, and I guess in preparation for the next arc.
Yeah, especially when it was like, "Oh, the woods are evil. The woods are evil." Well, Jack and Livy literally made love in the woods, and nothing was evil about it then. So
right. Ian comes to the cabin to find Eve because his intuition told him that that's where she might be. Eve's at the monastery looking for Michael, and it seems to be empty, and the candles flicker aggressively. She tries a door that is locked, and the candles blow out. Eve talks to herself and says there's nothing to be afraid of. It's just an old drafty church, and nothing bad ever happens in a church. She says, even though there's some horror movies that would say otherwise. She decides to sit and wait for Michael while she looks at a list of places to start her new life with her baby. And she hears a noise at the locked door. Lucy and Serena are setting up for a picnic in the woods. And Serena seems to be exerting her independence now that she's almost a teenager. She doesn't want to be seen as a child. She wants to be talked to like an adult. She says to Lucy she's almost a teenager, and it bothers her that Lucy and Scott treat her like a kid. She asked Lucy to drop the pumpkin head thing. Remember I mentioned the pumpkin head last week, and I was
Yes,
like, is
the
that something she
pumpkin.
always calls her?
Yes.
Um, Lucy says she will try to respect her growing up as long as she doesn't do it too quickly.
Mhm.
And they hear a noise in the woods, and Lucy attacks Ian thinking he's an animal or Bigfoot. A tarot card that means danger falls out of Lucy's bag while she's swinging it at Ian. And Ian feels like something is off and that Lucy and Serena should head back to Port Charles.
Mhm.
And he wonders where Eve is. Again, this is like everybody's got these weird sensations about the woods and like how dangerous they are and weird things happen. Weird, evil, and strange feelings were thrown around a lot. um
I don't know which one of us went out. Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. You dip it. It said that you like left and came back. So hi.
Yeah, hi. I don't know which one of us left, but
You actually sound better. I hear you clearer
oh,
now.
cool,
Yeah.
awesome.
um, I don't know what was the last thing you heard.
The woods, right? I think it was the
Oh,
woods.
I was saying Ian thinks that Lucy and Serena should go back to Port Charles because
Mhm.
something weird's going on. And I was saying that the word weird and having a strange feeling are
Mhm.
being thrown around a lot. And evil, like
Mhm.
um, Michael emerges from the locked door, and Eve says he scared her half to death. He said he was working on a project downstairs, and he gives her a wooden, I put bassinet that he made. I don't know if that's a bassinet.
Yeah, it's a bassinet. It's or what else do they call it?
She called it a cradle a few
I
episodes
think
later.
yeah, it's a cradle. Yeah, it's a cradle bassinet. It's I know cradles rock back and forth bassinets are still.
Okay.
So I
That
think
was like it
but
probably
or but I don't have kids, so anybody who has kids, please comment on below.
Karen is home from the hospital already. Like she literally had the surgery 2 episodes ago that we didn't see, by the way. We just saw her in the aftermath of the surgery. They're like, all right, let's just wrap this up.
Mhm.
Ariana's gone. Like, we don't need to talk about this anymore.
Right.
Frank is by her side, promising to take care of her. And he gives her back her heart necklace that, how did she lose her heart necklace? When she disappeared, did the necklace just like fall to the ground and he found it?
Like, whew. um,
I mean, I
I
know it
I
would
don't
fall
even
off a lot
know.
because of the clasp.
Mm,
So maybe that was it. I don't really
yeah,
remember what happened with that. But he gave it back to her. Or maybe she just took it off for surgery and he just held on to it.
that's what I'm thinking too. I'm thinking that it's something as simple as like she takes off for surgery and then she gives it back.
He says he has to step out for a bit, but he'll be back. And Scott and Rhonda show up. Rhonda mentions how she almost didn't go to the dance the night that Karen was conceived. And Karen asks her to tell her the story. Frank ends up going to visit Caroline's grave and vents about how he can't talk to anyone about what he did to save Karen.
For what reason?
I guess them knowing. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't get that. I didn't get the reason. I didn't get why we couldn't people couldn't. I guess for the same reason that in the other timeline, he him bringing up Karen would think that people would think that he's crazy. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, I know like mentioning to too many people in the past could alter what happens in the future, but to say it in present day, I don't
Mhm.
really know why. But all right.
Let's just go with it.
Yeah. Rhonda mentions how she had a friend back in 1973 that encouraged her to be strong and move forward after the loss of her sister. And he told her that she should go to the dance. She says he was from the future, but she said it like it was just like normal to say that. She can't remember
Mhm.
what he looked like because she drank a lot back then, and she's alcoholic, so she's had lots of drinks since then. And Scott says, but now she's dry docked. She says it's funny how things come full circle because his name was Frank, and this kind of like sets off like alarms in Karen's brain. Like,
Mhm. Uh-huh. Mhm.
so now she's thinking about the fairy tale of time travel that Frank told her, and seeing parallels with the story her mom told her.
Mhm.
um, Ian is back at the cabin, giving up hope of finding Eve, and he gets a visit from his ghost sister. And they play chess because I really
They
get
play
nothing out
chess.
of these scenes. She basically just gives him hope to keep looking for Eve, and they're meant to be together. And
Yeah.
blah, blah,
Yeah. I'm wondering if this is the last. If this is also the last time we see Renata, Grania, Granny,
blah.
Tweety Bird. I don't know.
It felt like a final scene because it felt like he was accepting what he had to do, and she was like, "My
Mhm.
job here is done," and she disappeared, kind of situation.
My work here is done.
Right.
Disappears.
Um, Jamal and Allison are at where the race will be held, and another rider gives Jamal a patch to wear in honor of a rider who died the week before.
Mhm.
This freaks Allison out, and Jamal says he promises to be safe. She asks to go for a ride with him before the race. And I put, because I saw you tweet this, they have a stock music bike ride.
Mhm.
It, you know what? And I couldn't come up with anything because I was trying to think of like what would be a good montage top 40 song back then, and I really couldn't think of anything that was like not like a dance song.
Yeah, I'm like thinking, and then like remember like Port Charles, they tend to do top 40 songs from like a few years after the song was a hit. So I'm
Yeah,
thinking of like,
like the
okay,
thong
what was a
song.
hit in 1999?
Remember when they played the thong song?
Yes, I remember when they played the song.
uh,
And then they play Jumpin' Jumpin' too. So I'm
yes.
thinking like,
And I feel like I heard Christina Milian at one point.
mm-hmm, many
um,
more. Uh,
uh, Allison tells Jamal she gets why he loves riding so much. I guess she got a little thrill from it.
mhm.
She then takes the keys to the bike and throws them. And she says there might be a race going on today, but he won't be riding in it. Oh,
Mm.
ooh, get him, girl.
Go girl, go Allison.
But I also felt like, okay, so she threw the keys. Okay. You could just find them. It might take a little bit, but you'll
Mhm.
find them. It wasn't like she threw them into a river.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I should probably throw him into the river, but then I looked around in the sea and I was like, wait, there's no river.
Right. Um, so Jamal is pissed and he can't believe that she did that. And he's like, you must be really proud of yourself. And they just have this whole dramatic argument about how she just wants him to be safe. And
Hmm.
it's just a repeat of the whole I have to do this, otherwise, it's going to cause more trouble. Um, Jack and Livy end up going to where the race is being held, and it's
Hmm.
coming down to the time that the race is going to start, and Jamal's not there. So now they're forcing Zach, Sam, and his goons are
Uh-huh.
forcing Jack to race in his place. Um, so he agrees to do it, and I'm like, at this point, I'm not. Me personally, I'm not realizing that they don't care if he doesn't win the race. It's more about getting the
Hmm.
diamonds across the border.
Yeah.
um, so Jack ends up doing the race, and he gets cut off by Zach and I don't know if Sam was with him at that point, but they basically load
Yeah.
up the bike with the diamonds.
Mhm.
Um, and I felt like it was edited weird because he went from "I'm not doing this, I'm not smuggling" off the border, and there was like no continuation of that scene. All of a sudden, he was just
Mhm.
riding the bike again.
It's like, oh, riding the bike again. Okay, well, okay.
Karen goes to Frank's garage and sees Nellie. And again, I just felt like there was no connection, as if anything we saw with her knowing that he was talking to somebody in the past.
Mhm.
And like,
Well, she knows that the computer's name is Nellie because she was like, "Hi, Nell. Oh, it's you, Nellie." Or she said, "Hi,
oh, she did
Nellie." I
say
forgot.
that?
Yeah, she did say that. She did acknowledge that the computer was called Nellie.
She actually gets caught on the computer like Frank did when he was like,
Yeah.
remember when it was like Nellie was like, "You're not going anywhere." Like Nellie like grabbed him back.
Uh-huh.
um, so again, I felt like this was like a really fast resolution. Well, we'll get to that because I feel like that's the end of the arc, or yeah, the end of the arc. So back to Jamal and Allison. Jamal's like, "I'll just hotwire this thing. I don't care." And Allison's
Mhm.
like, "You hate me," and I'm like, "Oh God, just calm down." um, she
And
actually,
somebody in the comments of this video said that, like, of the video, I think this episode was like, before Tainted Love, like before like the vampires came in, like these characters were very whiny.
right? Tainted Love must just to go on a slight tangent. Tainted Love must have been really popular in the ratings and everything
Mhm.
because I remember SoapNet rerunning the arcs and they just started with Tainted Love. They're like, "Yeah, we don't acknowledge the first two."
No, about the first two. I think even Julie Hannah Carruthers only acknowledges Tainted Love and after that.
Really?
Cause I was like, excuse me, Julie, there were two arcs before that. I know it took some time to like set up everything, but like just acknowledge at least that we have fate. That's how Kevin and Lucy got together, and that's how Ian and Eve got together. So
Right.
that's all you need to know about that. That's how Frank and Karen got together.
hmm So Jamal and Allison kind of make up. He gets the bike started by hot wiring it, and they go
Mm-hmm.
back to where the race is supposed to start to find out that Jack is racing. And they're basically being held against their will at the beginning of the race by goons. And I laugh because Allison like puts her hair back and she's all flirty with the guy that's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be watching them. And at first I thought Jamal was annoyed, like jealous that she was flirting with somebody in front of him because he had a look on his face. But she distracts the guy enough where Jamal's able to like get a gun from him.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, Allison gets the gun, and I was like, "Oh, she looks good holding the gun."
Yeah.
um, and they knock the guy out. And apparently, there's like headsets that they could talk to Jack through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Jack explains that they wanted him to smuggle something, but he's being watched. So Zach and some of his goons are actually watching the race from like the side on their own bikes. And Jack just starts like throwing the diamonds.
He goes, wee, yay.
With confetti, and they're like, "We gotta kill him." So now they're like chasing Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, this is leading into the beginning of what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
um, so there really was no need for a resolution for Lucy and Kevin because they were kind of side characters in this whole arc.
Yeah.
Even less so Gabby and Joe. They really had nothing to do in this arc.
Oh, they had absolutely nothing except to be the catalyst for Ben when they went to London, I think it was.
Right.
Like the reason that Ben came back.
Right.
So
I mean, Gabby was pretty much just like a glorified extra. She had
yeah.
like one scene and that was it. Same for Chris. Chris had a lot less to do in this arc also.
Wait, wasn't the Livy stuff in the beginning of the arc though?
You know, you might be right. I feel like somewhere in the middle, he kind of just got lost and like.
And then it became like that. Then he became like wrapped in with the Eve stuff.
Yeah.
But like less so than like when he was with Livy.
Do you remember when I mentioned I thought Chris made like a serum for vampirism? I think if I'm remembering correctly now, I think he made a serum that cured vampirism. Who knows? It'll probably all come back to me as we start watching it.
Yeah.
So Karen and Frank are still in the garage with Nellie, and she's asking him questions about the story that he told her because she's trying to piece together and make sense of her mother's story and his fairy tale because things are starting to line up, and she's like, did it really happen? And he's like telling her no, and a box falls over with pictures in it. And this is where we get to see the photo that little Frank took of him with his mom in 1973. So I knew that was going to be something.
Yeah, it didn't come in a big way, but it came in a way that
Frank tries to explain it away like it's not him, and I'm like, it's clearly you. You can't even say that that's your father. And you're wearing modern clothes in 1973. So he confirms that it's true, and she's just so accepting. She's like, "Oh my God, you saved me. I love you."
Hey, look, you gotta wrap up the arc. Right. Can't be mad at somebody at the end of an arc.
Right. I actually, again, felt like it happened really quickly, and I was like, okay, are we still going to be having this argument or discussion at the beginning of Tainted Love? Because I don't remember this at all. But then they wrapped it up, and I was like, oh, guess not. So they just need to burn the photo because nobody else can know what happened. And the way that they were standing, I was like, oh, this would be a really nice moment if they could dance to Time in a Bottle. And they did. I was like, oh, okay.
They did, yay. They need to squeeze that's the rights to that song out one more time.
Yeah, it was a nice ending scene. Even though I felt like it was rushed, but it was a nice way to kind of close it out. Oh, totally forgot. Eve and Ian. Ian goes to the monastery, and Michael offers him like a glass of water and lunch. And at the same time, in a different room, he asks Eve to stay for lunch before she like goes to leave, because he found her a job opportunity in like a small town where apparently a doctor comes once a month, 150 miles. He travels once a month, and she's just like, "Oh, that's not good."
That's not good.
So she's basically, it's gonna be like Everwood. She's gonna be like the one doctor in town.
Yeah.
That everybody goes to. So I didn't.
We're picking fences too.
I don't like when soaps do this, where like we know, like they're clearly just dragging this out to have the reunion happen, where like they're constantly missing each other and everybody's walking in circles, but they're still in the same vicinity.
Yeah.
Like Ian leaves the church and then he sees rose petals and he's like, I saw the rose petals in the church. Could Eve have done that? So he goes back to the church. And then Eve forgot her bassinet or cradle or whatever, so she walks in the church. But end of story, they have a reunion, they see each other, they hug. Did she tell him about the baby? I know he looked at the cradle.
I think see, I'm either it happens or it's going to happen in next one for Charles Tainted Love.
I mean, I know that he finds out eventually, but
he finds out. Yeah, he finds out because in the promo of Tainted Love, it's like it's Ian and Eve with baby shoes.
Okay. Oh yeah.
So, yeah. So this is the promo. This is the Tainted Love promo.
Yeah. But that was how it ended. It wrapped up in a nice, neat bow. I kind of feel like Karen and Frank at some points took a backseat in their own arc. And it was almost like the writers lost interest or they didn't know how to write for more than a week, sporadically here and there for them. Because it really didn't pick up to almost midway, and then I feel like they focus on like Livy, Allison, Jack, and Jamal. And then they kind of went back to it, but maybe only for like 2 episodes that week. And then the last week, they just decided to wrap everything up. I have to say, Frank isn't a character that I ever really paid attention to, but this arc made me like him.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes me sad because I know that he doesn't really get a lot to do in future arcs. But yeah, I actually enjoyed the arc more than I thought I would.
Yeah, and then what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something about. Well, I forgot. It slipped my mind.
So far, I can't believe we made it through 2 arcs already.
Yeah.
The moment we've been waiting for is finally here. We're gonna start Tainted Love.
Yes. Oh my gosh, our viewership's gonna go up.
Greg was sitting next to me when there was a scene with Michael Easton in it, and I was like, oh yeah, I was like, I think I said, I was like, damn, I was like, I really had a crush on Michael Easton in 2001, and he's like, and then I was like, and then he becomes a vampire, and I was like, and he could bite me, and he was like, okay, calm down.
Okay, calm down. He could bite me too.
Do you have anything else to add before we wrap this up?
Oh, so I did see the Soap Sanctuary #1 after I saw all the episodes, and it turns out that he did make Port Charles Time in the File #1, and he kind of ties. It's kind of interesting what he does. He like kind of says like, oh, supernatural elements of like soap operas are kind of tied to Haitian culture, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. But he doesn't go too much into it, but I'm like, I kind of want to know more. So like certain soap operas, like African soap operas, they do have supernatural elements.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike American soap operas, which are more based in reality for the most part, except for there are a few exceptions, of course, Dark Shadows, Passions, and the soap that we were talking about. But it does make me, and you know, and if you're aware of British soap operas, there isn't a lot of supernatural. I don't even think there's any supernatural talk in British soap operas. I know one Australian soap opera had werewolves. But like at some point, but like that Port Charles was gonna have to get canceled. We're not gonna talk about that. But other than that, it's been like kind of based in mostly in reality. Like
yeah,
and I kind of like the discussion that he brings up, and I wish he would have delved more into it about how like soap operas in other cultures aren't as like realistic as they are in aren't as realistic as they are in this culture, I guess.
That's interesting that he like rates it as #1.
Yeah, so he rates it as #1 because he didn't really like the vampire arcs, but he did like how somebody would go in the past to save somebody. Okay,
so, I can see that. I personally prefer vampires, so I guess it's all about taste.
And then he said he didn't put Marlena's Possession in #1 because like that's like the ultimate #1. So
right.
And so that's his list. So like if you were to put it #1, it's way too predictable. So
yeah, I mean, I guess if we're gonna rate the arcs that we've watched so far, I definitely liked Fate better.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess this would be #2 because we only watched 2.
Yeah, so we're going in order.
And I know Tainted Love's gonna mix that up. So.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, well, thank you for joining us for another edition of Port Charles. Next time you see us, we'll be starting Tainted Love. We're very excited. This is what we've been working for.
Yay!
As always, you can find us on all the socials at Queers and Soaps. And until next time, have a great day. Bye.
Bye.